It's a great river. It used to be a magnificent salmon producer.
Well, we know that.
As a route for salmon, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something happening over there. You know, last week it was a dead river. This week it looks like it's alive again. That's good news. I come down here to see a live river, not a dead one. And some of the salmon are starting to move in. No, pretty good. I can see little marks along the river that tell me there's salmon there.
And then you could...
Oh, big jumper.
Right there.
It was a king salmon too.
Oh, I heard that one.
Wow.
Yeah, so we first met through, I guess, Salmonberry Days?
Yeah.
So that would go back 15 to 20 years. And I was driving the bus as a volunteer, and Terry was the tour guide. So I guess 15 years ago, roughly, we started doing the bus tours along the river. I may have run into him before when we did the history of Dunbar, the book.
Yeah.
Because Terry was also involved in that. So I guess that's my connection in memory with Terry.
The river's like a magnet to me. Every Sunday, Sharon says, "You're going to the river?" My wife says, "Yeah, I'm going to the river." We're looking at the snatch block for the winch. This should be actually mounted next to the winch. The winch couldn't operate without this. It came on the barge with a winch from Sonora Island. The cables went through here and onto the cradle, and the boat sits on the cradle, and the winch cranks up and goes through this process of pulling the boat out of the water. Yeah, I just noticed the seal, which was eating a salmon about an hour ago, was eating another one. So that's good news. There's a few fish in the river, and I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones that there's fish in the river. I've caught up to 3,000 sockeye on this drift about this time of year, and I'm amazed that I come down here the last 2 Sundays and I got no fish at all, but now it's good news. I like good news. There was 3 warehouses here when the BC Forest Service was here, and most of their activity around the province took place in the warehouses. It was storage for firefighting equipment and hoses and what have you. So big warehouses all preparing for what we've had this year. It was a bad fire season. So about 60 people are working here, especially in the early spring. This is a winch what pulled the boats out of the water. There's a big electrical motor on the back of it, and we're talking about 10-ton boats, and we hooked them up to a marine railway and pulled them out of the water for repairs. And it's a beautiful piece of equipment, and hard to convince the people of power that we needed to preserve it. It came out of the building 1. I showed you further down there. It was in building 1. So when they started to rip all the timber out of the buildings for recycling, they said, what do we do with the winch? I said, that's ours. It belongs to the river. It belongs to the people who used to work here. A crew of 30 people probably depended upon this winch to get the boats out of the water, and they call them the docking gang. And I was one of the people on the docking gang, and without this we couldn't do the work that we were supposed to do. Keep the boats in good shape, get ready for fire seasons. It was all happened here.
It goes back probably almost 100 years.
That does, yeah.
And originally was steam powered?
It was probably a Pelton wheel He ran a Pelton wheel for electricity for a small village.
Right, yeah.
So it was an important piece of equipment.
Well, our next door neighbors where we lived in Carrisdale were the Elworthy family, and they owned and operated Island Tug and Barge. So we had moved here in 1965 next door to the Elworthy family. His parents were in Victoria, and Island Tug and Barge had a major operation in the inner harbor in Victoria, but the head office was here. And so their son was a year or so younger than me, and his father came over to my father and said, would your son like to work on a tug this summer? And it was the Sudbury II, and which was the largest tug on the West Coast, ex-Canadian Navy, 1944 built. And so we took off very quickly. We actually flew in an Air Canada Viscount from Vancouver to Victoria to be there so that we'd be on the tug when it left for its next trip. So with no training whatsoever, fresh out of Point Grey High School, it was a great experience to have the job as a deckhand, hauling an ocean-going barge of limestone. Your left hand is holding the wire rope to give it the tension that's needed, and your left foot is on the pedal for the brake, so that when you get to the right point, then you push the pedal down and hold it. And stay there for like the 5 minutes, and then when you'd finish, right? And if you just let go of that rope with your hand, 3 men would go flying. There was a crew of 18 on this ship, which was a big crew, and the tug it had full diving equipment for deep sea diving and decompression chambers. It had all this stuff on it. And then so I was responsible for cleaning, for scraping and painting, doing things, within the tug to 12 hours on, 12 hours off. We were gone for maybe 7 or 8 days. So we started in Victoria with an empty barge, went up the inside passage to Blubber Bay on Tuxedo Island. Took a day and a half to fill the empty barge with limestone. It was a company town. It had a general store, a cafe, and a post office, and a couple of streets and houses. Like there was maybe 150 people that lived there. It's all gone. There isn't a thing left except 2 houses. So then you left from Blubber Bay and you headed south, and you turned and you went through the Strait of Juan de Fuca and then down the coast to Astoria, Oregon, and on board, I'd never been in the ocean before. This was a new experience for me. I'd been on a few boat trips, but nothing like this. And so sure enough, there's swells coming in, and this tug is starting to move around. And one of the men in the engine room saw that I wasn't eating. And so he said, how are you doing? And I said, not too good. He said, eat saltine crackers and nothing else for the next 2 days and you'll be fine. And I was. I never got seasick.
So a 30-foot plank for a boat, and you made a mistake and said, oh, well, it'll bend, and it didn't. It cost money. So the guy operating the steam box, he would say, now's the time. You come and get it and bend it. He watched the lumber, he touched it, he knew exactly when it was going to bend. Oak is completely different than Douglas fir, all different bending regimes. They've been doing it for thousands of years probably. Native people with canoes and what have they know about it. I like yellow cedar myself. That's my favorite. I like scrounging up yellow cedar off the beaches. People don't like yellow cedar. I don't know why. Yeah. I love yellow cedar.
Sail. The old couple across the back lane. At that time, they said you were supposed to fill the tank with sand.
That was about maybe, I guess he took 60 gallons out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, he took...
the salmon, specialized. Eh? Specialized. 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 Yep. Got 22